Elon Musk, the world's richest man by a lot. He's out here dropping dimes on Twitter. He literally called out the UN food program after they posted an absolutely insane statistic. He's worth about $300 billion, and he said that he would immediately sell Tesla's stock if they could prove to him their claim that $6 billion would solve world hunger. The richest man in the world said, "You're telling people that it only would cost $6 billion to solve world hunger. Show me your math, and I will sell my stock right now, and I will give you $6 billion. Some may say Elon Musk called out a $6 billion bet. Now, 2% of his net worth would be that $6 billion. And in 2020, the World Food Program raised $8.4 billion. How come it didn't solve world hunger? Well, maybe because what we are watching is the continued repeating of asinine statistics and all sorts of really, really, really absurd policies. Everybody can rally around the idea that no person on earth should be hungry. And everyone can rally around the fact that folks want to help. But when you say things like, if only Elon Musk would give me $6 billion, then I could solve world hunger, the internet is undefeated. They go and they check. And last year, you raised $8.4 billion. So how come you didn't solve world hunger if it only takes 6? Well, of course, Elon, he can't resist. He just can't help himself. He said, if you can describe on this Twitter thread exactly how $6 billion will solve world hunger, I will sell my Tesla stock right now and do it. But of course, we know how this game goes. David Beasley, whose Twitter account is the WFP chief, because of course, you need everyone to know you're the chief. He said, headline not accurate. $6 billion will not solve world hunger, but it will prevent geopolitical instability, mass migration, and save 42 million people on the brink of starvation. An unprecedented crisis and a perfect storm due to COVID, conflict, and climate crises. Elon Musk, with your help, we can bring hope, build stability, and change the future. Let's talk. It isn't as complicated as Falcon Heavy, but too much at stake to not at least have a conversation. I can be on the next flight to you. Throw me out if you don't like what you hear. Now, before we go on, if you're the World Food Program chief and you're telling a guy, hey, this isn't that as hard as Falcon Heavy. If I'm the guy who made Falcon Heavy in my team, my first question is, well, if it's not as hard as what we already did, why haven't you solved the problem? Because if the Falcon Heavy, it's not like it's some impossible task. They literally built it. It's done. Like, hey, woo, we figured it out. We did the science and math. We figured it out. So if the problem isn't as hard as creating Falcon Heavy, why is it not solved? Maybe because, again, this is all asinine commentary. And so Elon said, I don't need you to come fly to me. Just publish your current and proposed spending in detail so people can see exactly where money goes. Sunlight is a wonderful thing. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the internet does. It ultimately is judge, jury, and executioner. Whether you think that's good or bad, what we watched a stupid headline that had no basis in reality get called out by the richest man in the world publicly, and he called the bluff. He said, if $6 billion will solve world hunger, I'll sell my stock right now and give it to you. Just prove to me how it does it. And then, of course, damage control comes from the World Food Program's chief. Oh, the headline is not accurate, of course. It will not solve world hunger. But then all of a sudden he goes, but it will prevent geopolitical instability, mass migration, and save 42 million people on the brink of starvation. Geopolitical instability, but yet we can't actually solve world hunger. This is part of the problem, is that people always want to throw around all these terms. If you want to solve the problem, think of it from a first principles standpoint. And also, if you raised $8.4 billion, people should know where that went. And so that's what Elon eventually said. He said, show us. I don't need you to fly to me. I don't want to have a private closed door meeting. This is the internet. People will help you. Just show your work. Put it on the internet. Be transparent. Tell us how you spent the money previously. And tell us what you're going to do with the money in the future. And my guess is if they had a legitimate plan and it actually made sense to intelligent people, Elon Musk would probably sell some stock and give them a bunch of money, maybe a couple $1 billion. And I bet you there's a bunch of other rich people who would pitch in too. But what you end up finding is that some of these organizations, they do some good work, but there's tons of waste. $8.4 billion last year. Where'd it go? What was the impact? How much good did they do? Nobody knows. John, when you saw Elon Musk tweeting this, were you excited that he was engaging, or were you like, oh, here we go again?
I'm very excited that he was engaging in talks to end world hunger. I'm glad that he was basically calling people out on their BS, talking about, oh, if you just give 2% of your net worth, you could solve world hunger. He's like, show me the blueprint, and we can do that, and we can move forward with that. And I'll even sell some stocks that I think will appreciate because I work at the company, and I will sell it, and we will do that. But then again, comes back to it. Oh, well, there's other technicality. That's not really true. He's calling people out on their BS. I love it. I think Tesla owners were shaking a little bit when he was talking about selling some Tesla stock to end world hunger. But good for him, and I hope that he can help in any way possible.
I think there's two things to look at that are fascinating. One would be that the article was just factually incorrect, right? And if you read the quotes in the article, the head of the World Hunger Organization literally didn't say anything like that. Like the quote was just like $6 billion would help save 42 million people. It had nothing to do with the full solving world hunger and all that. So they basically just it was clickbait. They got caught, etc. They updated it this morning. Now they added the word would help solve world hunger. So that's one thing. Won't get called out by anyone else. It's fine. Everyone moves on. The other thing that's fascinating, I think, is the idea that I believe many other wealthy people, billionaires, etc., would be much more willing to donate money, but they don't have control over their current donations, right? They don't know where a lot of this stuff is going. They can't facilitate it, etc. I think that you have to remember that a lot of these billionaires that are self-made billionaires, not people that inherited their wealth, but built businesses, they're world-class operators, right? They're CEOs of massive companies. Them, more than anyone else in the world, know how to efficiently allocate capital. Right. So when you think about an organization, the whole idea that I'm going to give you $6 billion, I want to see where that goes. Right. I want to make sure you're maximizing that money that I'm giving you and distributing it efficiently. And I think open sourcing that process and that data is an awesome solution. I think that's amazing. And I think more people should do that. And I think Elon Musk calling them out and saying, I will do that literally today if you can prove that that's how you'll do it and you do it in public. And that's why I'm a huge fan of what Jack Dorsey has done with his donation. He donated, I believe it was $1 billion. And he said, I'm going to put $1 billion, and he's tracking it on a Google sheet, right? And he said, everyone can come look at it, exactly where I'm donating money to, what it's being used for, et cetera. And I think that that's the way that a lot of these donations are going to be moving forward, because if you want the capital of the best operators in the world, people that know how to do this for their own business, you're going to have to show and prove to them how it's being allocated in a good way.
How many people do you think work at the World Food Program? Total number of people who work with them.
No clue. 15,000?
100,000?
20,600.
I guess do it on purpose.
87% of them are based in the field. That means 2,600 or so, 2,700 are not based in the field. That is 50% of Twitter's employee base.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you start to look at this, their numbers off their website, 811 million people go to bed hungry every night, more than 10% of the world's population. And they said that after this is a real sentence. After nearly a decade of progress, the number of hungry people has slowly increased. Well, you obviously didn't make progress if the number increased. So this is like the whole like corporate nonsense. You made zero progress if on a net basis it increased. So obviously it's getting worse rather than getting better, which is sad, and we should try to fix it. But you have to be realistic with yourself and say we raised $8 billion last year, and the problem got worse. What's wrong? What's happening? Is it just a money thing, or is there something else? And that's ultimately when you go and you poke the bear, when you go and you poke somebody who literally for a living does first principles thinking, that's what you get.